How's it going, guys? Cracked Rack here, and today I wanted to tell the story of the time I got a quote-unquote DUI. Now, normally my driving record is squeaky clean with no marks on it, but this one time I did screw up really badly. This was about 2 years ago when I still lived in Billings, Montana, and basically I drove out to a dispensary one night. I just wanted to go home and play a bunch of video games, Mortal Kombat, and smoke a bunch of weed. At the pot store, there were these flyers everywhere. And they were like, weed party, only cost $10 for infinite weed all night. So I was like, cool! And I went home, and I bought some condoms. Though the condoms were completely unopened, I still have one in my wallet right now. So come the day of the party, I drove out there, and the first thing I noticed was this was a sketchy-ass party. It was being operated by some really strange ghetto individuals, and not just this, it was at a dilapidated, cheap clubhouse that was more like a trap house in the middle of nowhere, deep in the woods. It had no internet connection inside, and it looked like garbage from the outside. It looked like it looked like a 500-year-old library. It looked terrible. So I take a deep, nervous breath and go inside and pay the $10 fee, which was not enforced at all. It was a hat full of, like, hundreds of dollars from some of the partygoers. I bet plenty of them just walked inside. So I get in, and the first thing I notice is, yeah, I was right. This is a really sketchy party. There's like 25 booths lined up at this huge party, and all of them are giving out hundreds of dollars of free pot, joints, and bong hits. All these shops are demoing their products, basically. There's also this DJ who was an absolute asshole. He was like not even of legal smoking age. He was like 19. And he was a douchebag because if you weren't a hot chick, he wouldn't talk to you. He wouldn't talk to me, and he wouldn't talk to some of the other guys that tried to talk to him. And he's not deadmau5 or Daft Punk. He's a local DJ with like 50 likes on Facebook. So I thought that was just really shitty right off the bat. And he wasn't doing anything. He was pressing play on a keyboard with preloaded music on it. So I started smoking some weed hard. And at first I was like, cool, free weed. Because, free weed is pretty awesome. It feels better than paid for weed. But because the energy of the people around me here was really negative and low, I felt really anxious and paranoid. And I didn't think I was better than everybody or anything. It's just, they really were very low energy, low vibe, just really disturbing. Like, they all looked like people that engaged in criminal activity frequently, and like they were just celebrating today instead. Lots of face tattooed 50-year-olds there too, which just, if you're a face tattooed 50-year-old, don't go to parties with 20-somethings. That's so weird. But anyways, contributing to this weird feeling were the Trump-supporting, MAGA hat, like Aryan Brotherhood gang member types. And I'm not like doing a diss on Trump. Like, they were Aryan Brotherhood and a Trump supporter. And they were just covered in American flag tattoos and like smoking all day in the same spot. It was just a bad feeling. I felt like I was in the lounge of hell with all the other people that got sent to hell. And there was this blonde chick who approached me and was like, "What is your name?" And she had an accent. That was a terrible recreation of the accent. And I was like, "Matthew?" And she was like, "Oh, Matthew, that is my father's name and I won't forget it." And she put her hand on my chin. So this was a chick flirting with me, and the only one that flirted with me at all at the party. The problem, she was around 45 years old. And I'm just not one to bang MILFs. That's not my desire outside of pornography and fantasy. It's not something I actually want to do. So now I was just really uncomfortable with it, so I just silently avoided her for the most part. Then I went over to this one booth and got ripped. I took like 5 bong hits, and I smoked a whole joint. And I drank all this, like, weed Kool-Aid. Yeah, they had weed Kool-Aid shit there. And I was loaded, but I was still not having a good time. I looked at how many sketchy gang member types were here, and it just felt like I was at some kind of underground mafia party. And there were also chicks there that looked like prostitutes, and I just was not even going to talk to them. I went into the bathroom, and I just remember standing there in the dark, feeling like I was in such, like, a wrong place. Like pissing in this toilet as I had a bad weed trip as Still Dre played extremely loudly. Like it shook the floor and you could hear it completely in the bathroom. It was just really bad vibes, and I've been to nightclubs before, and even the sketchiest nightclub is less unsettling than this place. It may have only been a weed party, but there was so much weed here, way past any legal limit. It was very, very weird. So eventually, after several hours here, not having any fun at all, not vibing with anyone, I was like, I need to get more high. So I went to one of the vendors who has like this fucking box you can suck out of and take a hit of like 100% THC. And I was huffing on this box so long, he let me take like 25 huffs. And right after I did that, the creator of the whole party came out and was like, "Alright everyone, party's over, drive safe or get an Uber." And I was like, what? I literally just took a life-changing dose of marijuana, and now I have to go home and drive. I didn't take any money or cards with me because I was going to such a sketchy place, so I couldn't get an Uber, so I opted to drive home. I got in, and I immediately felt extremely intoxicated and like I was doing the wrong thing, but I still did it anyways. I got really focused on the road as I drove until I realized it's because I was so high, and I was driving like shit. I was swerving, I was nervous, I was handling like garbage. So I decided to stop at a gas station only half a block away from where I lived. And I bought some donuts, and I devoured them. They were so good, but I don't even remember this all the way. I like blacked out mentally after what happened after that. I had like $4 on me, so I was able to get them, and they were just awesome. But when I got back in the car, I was like, okay, just a roundabout and half a block and I'm home. Even if I'm blitzed, I can do this. So I turn the car on, go through the roundabout, and as soon as I go through it, I see and hear. I was like, oh shit. So I pulled over as fast as I could, which unfortunately meant I was pulled over directly, like a few feet away, from the entrance of a car dealership with glass windows, and everyone was staring at me. And the employees, like, got a live show. And the cop starts approaching me, and I'm very scared because I'm so fucking high, and it's so obvious. And where I lived had very, very, very strict laws about weed. Like, you can consume it, but if you drove with it, they would charge you with a DWI. So he came over, and he was really nice and really polite and quick. Like, he was in and out of there really quickly. And he gave me the minimum fine for any type of DUI, which was $85. I asked what he pulled me over for, and he was like, "Oh, you went through that roundabout in pitch black darkness with your lights off." And I was like, oh yeah, I guess I did drive through a night ring. So I came out on top with no charges, but that was horrible to go through. Then the day of court, I was like, okay, you know what? I'm going to bicycle to court because that will show the judge what a responsible man I am. I won't even drive to the court for my DUI case. So I got on my bike, and I biked there, and it took about 2.5 hours. It was 8 miles away, and my e-bike just barely made it there, and it sucked. It was freezing cold, my bike kept slipping in the ice, and parts were falling off because of how far I was going. So I felt like shit. I finally got there. I was sweating because I was so late, and I get to the clerk while panting out of breath, and she's like, "Oh, this was a no-show court appearance. You didn't have to come. You just had to pay the fine, which you did. You can go home." And I was like, fuck! Well, not really, but in my head, I was like, fuck! So yeah, there you go. That's the story of my first and only DUI. What can be learned from this story? Simply treat police with respect, and you'll get respect back.